So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to ask you to take a look at your engineer's scale, and I'd like you to draw a line. If I were to draw a line at 1 inch equals 10 feet, we'll go back to our original 1 inch equals 10 feet. How long is a 24-foot line? And I'll give you a second. You see if you can figure that out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get my engineer's scale out, and since I'm in the 10 scale, 1 inch equals 10 feet, I can use my engineer's scale that has a 10, and I know that 1 inch equals 10 feet, and we need to draw a line that's 24 feet long. So I'll start at the 0, and I'll draw it, and I'll go, well, this is 10 feet right here. I go to here, this must be 20 feet. And then I go 1, 2, 3, 4. Right there is 24 feet. So that gives me a 24-foot line at 1 inch equals 10 feet. So hopefully you got the same thing. So then the next thing I want to think about with my engineer's scale is, what if I have, and what if I have a scale, and this is probably even more common, what if I have a scale of 1 inch equals 100 feet? Then what will I do? Because I don't have a 100 scale on here. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually just add a 0 to my 10 scale. So now I'm going to go to my 10 scale, and whereas before 0 to 1 represented 10 feet, now it's going to represent 100 feet. So if I'm going to draw a line that's 100 feet long, right here, this is now 100 feet. 1 inch is equaling 100 feet. And then what that means is every one of these little tick marks right here now represents 10 feet, okay? So if I were going to draw a line that was 24 feet long at 1 inch equals 100 feet, now I would start here at the 0 and I would go 10, 20, and then kind of right in here. Now my 24-foot long line actually shows up much smaller at a 1 inch equals 100 feet scale. Does that make sense? Then the next thing we want to do is we want to think about how does that transfer to other scales. So now I'm going to say, let's take a look at my 50 scale. Oftentimes I will have drawings that are at a scale of 1 inch equals 500 feet. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually just draw a square. I'm not giving it any particular measurements, just drawing the square. We'll pretend like maybe it's some kind of a, I don't know, some kind of bizarre field that I can't even think of anything right now. All right, but now I have a square here, and I'm curious to know at a scale of 1 inch equals 500 feet, how big is that square, because I need to calculate the area of it. All right, so what I'm going to do is I am not going to use my 10 scale because the number that I'm looking at here is the 5, right? So I'm going to use my 50 scale, and that means I have to switch my engineer's scale over. I find my 50 scale, and just as a reminder, at 1 inch equals 500 feet, if I were to draw a line, now I'm looking here on my scale, my 1 inch ends up right at this point right here, which is a 5. So even though it only says 2, 4, and 6, I know that the number halfway between 4 and 6 is a 5, right? So what that's telling me is that this 1 inch right here represents 500 feet. It's done all the math for me. I don't need to use a ruler and try to measure something out and then multiply it by any numbers. What I want to do is I want to use this scale that's done all the math for me, and I can really easily tell then that this is 100 feet, 200, 300, 400, 500 feet. And then what that means is the time